The two men I loved most in the world conspired to send me to prison. One was my husband, who had sworn he would cherish me for a lifetime. Yet, because of the lies spun by his first love, he cursed me, calling me a cheap slut. Not only did he order people to beat me black and blue, but he also cruelly forced me to miscarry the child we were expecting. The other was my own brother, who since childhood could never bear to say a harsh word to me. But swayed by a scheming woman's manipulations, he not only treated me with cold indifference but cursed me as a jinx, saying I should have died long ago. After I endured endless torture in prison until my heart turned to ash, they were suddenly filled with regret, kneeling and begging for my forgiveness. That day, a luxury car pulled up to the dilapidated prison gates. A man with an imposing aura stepped out. It was Ethan, my husband in name only. Ethan leaned against the car, lazily beckoning me over as if calling a dog. Perhaps in his heart, that's all I was, a shameless, groveling lapdog with no self-respect. But even a lapdog feels pain. After learning its lesson the hard way, it too will leave, never daring to approach again. I stood rooted to the spot, afraid to move closer. I could never forget the time he violently kicked me while I was pregnant. He called me cheap, unworthy of bearing his child. That day, I bled so much, soaking my pure white dress completely red. But he had laughed. You caused Chloe to lose her baby. A venomous woman like you doesn't deserve to have children either. What a cruel doesn't deserve. The physical agony was nothing compared to the searing pain in my heart. That day, I was on the verge of collapsing. Seeing me frozen there, Ethan frowned impatiently. Looks like you had a comfortable time in prison. Haven't shed any of your rotten habits. Had a comfortable time? The flesh sliced open by small knives, the wounds soaked in salt water and chilly water, the fingernails brutally ripped out, being electrocuted until I convulsed, whipped until my flesh was torn and bleeding. The tiger bench, the needle bed, the scraping of bones. Recalling those vicious tortures, I couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. Seeing my uncontrollable shaking, his tone was filled with disgust. We're not even home yet, and you're already putting on an act? Still the same old cheap act, as always. He was extremely irritated and barked an order, get over here now. Stop embarrassing yourself. Before, when Ethan called me cheap, when he humiliated me like this, I would be furious and desperate. But now, I was numb. What I endured in prison was a dual assault on my mind and body. The warden constantly whipped me, beating me until I couldn't walk, my body a mess of blood and torn flesh. But even that wasn't enough for her. She would pour chilly water and salt directly onto my open wounds. Only when she heard my agonized screams would she laugh with satisfaction. You slut, this is your punishment. Let's see if you dare to be so shameless again. Neither Mr. Ethan nor Mr. Ben are people someone as low as you can get close to. Mr. Ethan belongs to Miss Chloe, and Mr. Ben belongs to Miss Abby. Trash like you shouldn't even exist. They specifically asked me to take special care of you. In the beginning, my stubborn nature made me grit my teeth and deny it. I'm not shameless. Ethan is my husband, Ben is my brother. Why shouldn't I be near them? I forced a cold smile onto my lips, already raw and broken from being ripped by tape countless times, completely defiant. And who do you think you are? Pointing fingers at me here. You're nothing but Chloe and Abby's attack dog. From then on, I became the warden's prime target for torture. Electrocution, needles, the tiger bench, whipping, they came one after another, in rotation. There wasn't a single patch of unscathed skin on my body. The words cheap slut were branded onto my back with a scorching hot iron, like the mark on the lowest slaves in ancient times. In the dead of winter, with temperatures well below freezing, she stripped me naked. She forced me to crawl on the ground, barking like a dog, making me repeat over and over, I'm cheap, I'm shameless, I'm a bitch, until my voice was completely hoarse. The most soul-crushing part was when she brought in several leering, middle-aged men from God knows where. Their filthy bodies crawled over mine, their lewd laughter echoing as they groped me everywhere. You can have fun with this slut. She can't live without a man, you know. At the warden's command, they trampled my body with impunity, making humiliating comments as they did so. I struggled, I screamed, but it was useless. Finally, I was thrown onto the floor like a discarded rag doll. That day, I bled heavily from my lower body, as it hadn't been long since my miscarriage. Yet, I felt numb, staring blankly at the dark ceiling. I felt so dirty. I wondered why I was still alive, why I had come into this hellish world. I decisively slit my wrists, but unfortunately, I was saved. But the me who was saved now is no different from a walking corpse. My spirit has long been numb, indifferent. I died long ago. Seeing my persistent refusal to approach, Ethan's patience clearly ran out. He grabbed me and dragged me towards the car, ignoring my frantic struggles. Once inside the car, he hissed angrily, "Just getting in the car, and you act like you're being raped. What kind of chaste act are you putting on?" He sneered, "You used to practically throw yourself at me." My mind, however, was filled only with the word rape, echoing over and over. The agonizing memories flooded back, overwhelming me. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead, my face deathly pale. Only then did Ethan seem to notice something was wrong. He frowned, asking, "Are you okay?" I opened my mouth blankly, then closed it again in pain. The warden was right. I am cheap, a shameless piece of trash. Even though Ethan had his first love in his heart, I kept throwing myself at him out of love. Ethan must have always been annoyed, always looked down on me, right? My eyes glazed over as I shook my head at him. I didn't dare ask for help anymore, didn't dare speak of that dark, terrifying past. That time Ethan came to visit me in prison, I nervously glanced around. Finally, I mustered the courage to grab his hand, whispering cautiously, "Ethan, it's really horrible here, they." Before I could finish, Ethan cut me off impatiently. "Lily, will you ever stop? Who are you putting on this pitiful act for now? I won't be fooled by you again. Just stay here and reform yourself properly. Stop with these crooked ideas." Ethan yanked his hand back in annoyance and walked away without hesitation. "No. Ethan, I wasn't." I shrieked, my voice almost shrill. Because I knew if Ethan didn't take me away this time, I would face even more terrifying punishment. The thought of the agonizing electric shocks, the sharp needles, the whip laced with thorns made my scalp tingle. The instinct for survival made me hysterical, like a desperate madwoman throwing caution to the wind. But his casually spoken words drained all the strength from my body. He didn't even turn around, his tone cold. "Lily, stop doing things that disgust me. The marriage you wanted, I've already given it to you. Stay here and reflect properly. Chloe needs me to take care of her." Back then, everyone in the city knew how madly the heir of the Ethan family loved Chloe. Only I refused to believe it, chasing after him, fawning over him for 5 years until I finally succeeded in marrying the handsome man. I never expected that I had never truly entered his heart, it was forever reserved for Chloe. Ethan denied everything between us, regretted marrying me, even said I disgusted him. My heart turned to ash, and in that moment, I forgot to struggle or scream. The warden grinned menacingly, waved her hand, and my mouth was covered as I was dragged back. Because I had tried to escape this hell, tried to complain to Ethan, I had thoroughly enraged the warden. That day, I was beaten until I was covered in blood, passed out, only to be woken by splashes of icy water. My head was forced into cold, dirty water until I nearly suffocated. As a painter, the tendons in my right hand were mercilessly severed. My dreams instantly crumbled. The warden cackled, "Miss Chloe hates this hand of yours the most, so this hand has to go." I cried out and struggled desperately, but I could only watch helplessly as I was destroyed. I knew why Chloe hated this hand. Because as long as I was around, she could never win the design championship. Her only victory was achieved with Ethan's help, using dishonest means. The silence in the car was unusual. In the past, it was always me chattering away, sharing every little interesting detail of my life with Ethan, movies I liked, pretty clothes I bought, colleagues I met recently. He was always silent, sometimes even annoyed. "Lily, how can you have so much to say every day? Don't you get tired?" I would stick out my tongue playfully, smiling brightly. "Because I like you. I just love talking to you." At those times, he would just shake his head helplessly, as if he couldn't do anything about me. "I really give up on you." But my heart would feel incredibly sweet. I just loved being with Ethan, nothing ever felt boring. Even if I was the only one talking, I never felt tired. But now, Ethan looked at me, somewhat puzzled. Didn't you used to talk a lot? Why are you so quiet now?" I felt confused. Didn't he hate my constant chatter the most? Now that I was quiet, wasn't that exactly what he wanted? Besides, the warden had said that a cheap woman like me wasn't allowed near Ethan. Ethan only had eyes for his first love, Chloe. My trying to be near him was shameless seduction, deserving of divine punishment. I was dirty and cheap, even looking at Ethan was an offense to him. "Mr. Ethan belongs to Miss Chloe. Trash like you, stay away. Otherwise, I have plenty of ways to take care of a cheap bitch like you." As she spoke, she flipped the switch for the electric current. The buzzing sound filled the air as I trembled, convulsed, until I went numb. The warden's cruel face seemed to hover right before my eyes. I instinctively curled into a ball, hugging myself tightly in a defensive posture. Seeing my continued silence, Ethan grew annoyed, his strong hand forcefully gripping my chin. Are you blaming me for sending you to prison? You were the one who acted maliciously, did those terrible things, and now you're blaming me? When I shook my head, he grew even angrier. If you're not holding a grudge, then who are you making that face for? His furious, almost cannibalistic expression startled me badly. I immediately, mechanically, forced a smile, one meant to be appeasing, but it came out strangely distorted. Just as Ethan was about to say something, the car arrived at his house. A young woman in a tank top and short skirt rushed out energetically, tapping on the car window. The woman's smile was radiant, but I felt a chill run through my entire body. Chloe is my niece. What makes you think you can compete with her for a man? You slut. Chloe was upset because of you today. What should we play with today? The whip, the needle bed. Chloe said seeing this hand of yours annoys her. Let's just break your hand, consider it her birthday present. The warden's demonic voice seemed to echo incessantly in my ears. I hugged my head, terrified, unwilling to get out of the car. Ethan opened his door, and seeing Chloe, his previously gloomy expression softened considerably. His tone was almost gentle. The sun is so strong, and your health isn't great. Why did you run out? The woman glanced coquettishly at Ethan. I wanted to welcome you back. You don't need to do that next time. Hearing this, Chloe's expression stiffened for a moment, then she forced a smile. Even if I'm not welcoming you, I have to welcome Lily. We haven't seen each other in so long. Seeing me huddled in the car, refusing to come out, Ethan's eyes blazed with anger as he pulled the door open. What are you doing now? But I seemed unable to hear his question, head bowed low, eyes empty, lost in my own world. Helplessly, Ethan ignored my struggles and lifted me out of the car in his arms. As he held me, he muttered puzzledly, "Why are you so light? It's like holding a skeleton." I kept my head down, dark memories nearly drowning me. The repeated, inhuman torture in prison had dealt me an almost devastating blow. Every day was a living death. How could I possibly have an appetite? The warden treated me worse than livestock. A few rotten leaves with some slightly smelly meat scraps were my meals. Sometimes, the meat was just taken from the freezer and thrown on the floor for me to eat without any preparation. The first few times, I was so disgusted I threw up immediately, unable to take a bite. The warden would forcibly shove the frozen meat into my mouth. Our Chloe said that a cheap bitch like you should act like a dog. Now that you're here, did you think you could eat human food like before? She pinched my face viciously and spat. Stop dreaming. You cheap little bitch. Later, I couldn't afford to be picky anymore. The burning hunger in my stomach forced me to compromise. I truly acted like a dog, squatting on the floor, grabbing the frozen meat, and stuffing it into my mouth. After eating, I would vomit again. The warden would stand nearby, filming me and laughing. Chloe, you and Miss Abby don't need to worry anymore. Look at her, does she look like a rich young lady? She's just a cheap bitch. Sometimes, I wouldn't even get any food at all. The prison was full of inmates eager to curry favor, and they all understood the warden's malice and hostility towards me. So, to please the warden and get better treatment, some inmates would stomp on my food, others would urinate on it. It was common for me to go days without eating anything, my stomach cramping violently from hunger. Receiving praise from the warden, getting an extra piece of meat, further motivated them. Thus, their torture wasn't limited to starving me. They punched and kicked me, threw my bedding into the toilet, pulled my hair late at night to keep me from sleeping. All sorts of torturous methods were used on me. So, how could I not be thin? Seeing Ethan carry me out of the car, Chloe's eyes were venomous. As soon as I met Chloe's vicious gaze and thought about my experiences in prison, I couldn't stop shaking. But Chloe smiled. Welcome back, Lily. Superficially, she acted like a caring older sister, taking my hand. Let the past be the past. Lily, I forgive you too. In reality, her eyes were as cold as a viper's, and her nails dug deep into my flesh. It hurt terribly, but I didn't dare resist. I was afraid of upsetting her. Every time Chloe was unhappy, the warden would use various methods to punish me. Brutally pulling out my fingernails, stabbing my fingers repeatedly with needles, whipping me with a barbed lash that tore off chunks of flesh with every strike. The warden said if I dared to upset Chloe, she would drag me back there. Thinking of those dark memories, the terrifying consequences, I could only lower my head and endure silently. Forget seeing her in person, just hearing the name Chloe triggered a physiological fear response in me. Chloe led the dazed me into Ethan's house, handed me slippers, acting very much like the lady of the house. Once inside, I realized it looked completely different from my memory. My usual bunny slippers were gone, replaced by a pair of simple purple ones. The slippers Chloe handed me were the disposable kind meant for guests. The limited edition figurines I used to keep on the coffee table were replaced by an exquisite vase filled with various beautiful flowers, lending an air of domesticity. But I have allergies, I can't stand the smell of pollen. A few bottles of nail polish, in a garish red, were left on the sofa. Everything indicated that Ethan's house had a new mistress. Even though I was still Ethan's legal wife. Seeing me just standing there blankly, Ethan frowned again. "Why are you just standing there foolishly? There's a sofa, go sit down." I flinched but didn't dare sit on the sofa. Instead, I curled up cross-legged in a corner next to it. I was dirty, and cheap, unworthy of sitting on the sofa. That was reserved for Ethan and Chloe. Ethan was both angry and exasperated. "There's a perfectly good sofa, why are you sitting on the floor? As if someone's abusing you." "Alright, Ethan, Lily probably just got out of prison and isn't used to it. Don't talk to her like that." Chloe put on her mask of false kindness and took Ethan's hand. But Ethan's brow furrowed even deeper. What's there to get used to about sitting on a sofa after getting out of prison? Would anyone dare to abuse Ethan's wife? At Ethan's words, Chloe's expression darkened, her face almost twisting uncontrollably. She looked at me coldly, as if staring at something inanimate. I jolted, instinctively straightening my spine. My throat had been damaged by the medicine the warden forced me to take, leaving me unable to speak. All I could do was gesture frantically and helplessly. I wanted to say, "I won't compete with Chloe. I'm not a threat to her. So please, please let me go." Seeing me gesturing wildly, only able to make faint ah sounds, Ethan finally realized something. A flicker of panic crossed his face, his voice rising unconsciously. "Lily, what happened?" "Your throat." Chloe's eyes darted nervously, and she quickly interjected, "Ethan, when Lily was inside, she had a high fever once. By the time the warden found her, it was too late. The fever damaged her vocal cords." She swallowed nervously, clutching Ethan's hand. "But I believe there's a chance she can recover. Don't worry too much." Ethan, however, exploded in fury, smashing the glass vase on the coffee table. "Didn't you say the warden is your aunt and would take good care of Lily? Why did something like this happen? Why didn't I hear a single word about any of this?" He violently flung Chloe's hand away, roaring, "Get out. I don't want to see you right now." Seeing me struggle to make the ah sounds, Ethan rushed over, looking at me anxiously. "Lily, are you trying to say something?" Sweat beaded on his forehead from urgency. As if finally remembering something, he pulled his phone from his pocket. "Whatever you want to say, just type it on the phone. I'm right here." Seeing his rage, directed even at his beloved Chloe, genuinely confused me. Ethan was actually angry at Chloe, for my sake? That was Chloe, the woman who held such an important place in his heart. His obsession and love for Chloe were known throughout the city. When they were young, he defied his grandfather for her. The moment Chloe appeared at our wedding, he was instantly distracted. Later, for Chloe's sake, he caused me, pregnant me, to miscarry. As soon as I took the phone, I felt two intense gazes on me. Chloe stared fixedly at my hand, her eyes conveying a clear warning. And I, holding the phone, struggled to type. After the tendons in my right hand were severed, I could barely exert any strength. "Ethan, let's get a divorce. I'll let you and Chloe be together. I'm cheap and filthy, completely unworthy of you. You and Chloe are the ones made for each other. Divorce?" Seeing these two messages, Ethan roared uncontrollably. Ignoring Chloe's hopeful, gleeful expression, Ethan's eyes turned red. "Who taught you to say this? Let me tell you, don't even think about divorce. Dead or alive, you, Lily, are my woman." Chloe couldn't sit still any longer. Panicked, she grabbed a shard of glass from the floor and cut herself. Bright red blood immediately began to flow. She cried out pitifully, "Ethan, it hurts so much." This was Chloe's usual trick. It was the same tactic she used to send me to prison. I would never forget that day. She stood there, holding her belly, provoking me with a smug smile. "Lily, don't you understand yet? From when we were young until now, Ethan has only ever loved me. You're just redundant. Now, I'm carrying Ethan's child. If you know what's good for you, just step aside. Don't humiliate yourself." Back then, my heart ached so much I could barely breathe. I knew how much Ethan cared for Chloe, so her words made me panic, uncertain. It was the baby in my belly that gave me courage. No matter what, I had to ask Ethan directly. So, I took a deep breath and looked at Chloe calmly. "I don't believe you. I'm going to ask Ethan myself." Chloe suddenly became flustered. "Lily, have you no self-respect? The truth is right in front of you, yet you still insist on pestering him. I ignored her, stubbornly walking forward. But Chloe suddenly threw herself down the stairs, blood pooling between her legs. Yet, her face showed no pain, only a strange, triumphant joy. Then, I turned and saw Ethan. Ethan, don't blame Lily. She just loves you too much, that's why she pushed me, Chloe said from the floor, her lips pale. No, Ethan. You have to believe me, I didn't. I was terrified, desperately trying to explain. But Ethan refused to listen, just gave me a cold look. If anything happens to Chloe, I won't let you off. He swept Chloe into his arms and left without a backward glance. And Chloe, nestled in Ethan's embrace, shot me a smug, triumphant smile. I understood then. It was a trap set by Chloe, but no one believed me. At the hospital, after learning Chloe had miscarried, Ethan kicked me hard in my pregnant belly. Motherly instinct made me try desperately to shield my stomach, but Ethan's bodyguards forcibly restrained me. I could only watch as Ethan's foot landed on my abdomen, sending waves of excruciating pain through me. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. My baby, my precious baby. Ethan sneered, his eyes full of disgust. You cheap, venomous bitch, how are you worthy of bearing my child? Seeing my pure white dress soaked through with blood satisfied him. You caused Chloe to lose her child, so you don't deserve to have one either. Isn't that only fair? Ha 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 ha, I laughed until tears streamed down my face. What fairness. For his first love, he personally killed our child. Countless nights, I had snuggled in his arms, happily imagining what our baby would look like, picking out endless names. And now, this child, filled with my hopes, its gender unknown, was gone. Dragging my exhausted, post-miscarriage body, I went to find the only family I had left in the world, my own brother, Ben. I tearfully told him what happened, but his face remained cold and indifferent. He said I probably had countless lives on my conscience, and losing this child was my punishment. The moment you caused Mom and Sarah's deaths, I stopped being your brother. Seeing you end up like this, I actually think you got off easy. But I really didn't kill Mom and my sister-in-law, Sarah. Abby, Sarah's sister, claimed it was because I threw a tantrum on a rainy day, insisting on having roasted chestnuts, that they got into the car accident. She even said Sarah told her this. My brother flew into a rage, pointing a trembling finger at me. Jinx. If you hadn't insisted on eating those damn chestnuts, how could anything have happened to them? His eyes were filled with disgust as if I were something filthy. Why wasn't it you who died? You killed the two people I loved most. You have 2 lives on your hands, you're a sinner. Brother, I really didn't. I frantically tried to explain. I really hadn't asked Mom and Sarah to buy me anything. In such terrible weather, how could I possibly do something like that? I had called them, yes, but it was to tell them to drive carefully, to be safe on the road. My explanation, however, was seen by my brother as shirking responsibility. His eyes blazed with anger. Why won't you admit it when you've done something wrong? Lily, you make me sick. From now on, I am no longer your brother. Ben didn't even show up to my wedding. When he heard I had supposedly pushed Chloe, it only confirmed his belief that it was something I was capable of. Instead of defending me, he told my husband, Lily is ruined. She killed Mom and Sarah before, so this isn't surprising. He was so cold, he didn't seem like my brother at all. Ethan, why don't you just divorce her? Consider it our family's apology to you for producing this disaster. Later, he even joined forces with Ethan to send me to prison. Now, Ethan looked at Chloe's injured hand, his expression flat. Then go get it bandaged. Ethan, Chloe persisted, staring intently at him, tears streaming down her face. Back then, Before Chloe could finish, Ethan rubbed his temples wearily. Let me help you. Chloe gazed obsessively at Ethan's serious face, then, after a moment, turned to me with malice in her eyes. Lily, did you know your brother is getting married? Her eyes were filled with wickedness. To your dear Abby. I felt the blood drain from my body, turning icy cold. Because Abby was the one who murdered my mother and sister-in-law. Actually, when Abby first claimed I made them buy chestnuts, causing the accident, I already suspected her. But I had no proof. It wasn't until just before I was imprisoned that Abby whispered to me. Actually, I deliberately said that back then. Her face twisted, filled with hatred. That old hag only liked trash like Sarah. Even though I liked Ben too, she acted like she couldn't even see me. And Sarah was disgustingly nauseating. Always talking about how much she loved me, her little sister, but she wouldn't give Ben up for me. So hypocritical and selfish. So, I sent them both to hell. Ha ha ha, let me tell you, that day, Their bodies were crushed by the truck into piles of mush. It was disgusting. But their eyes just wouldn't close. Abby laughed wildly, like a madwoman. I was so furious I wanted to lunge at her and hit her. This demon had killed my mother and sister-in-law, and then framed me, turning me into the sinner. But prison guards grabbed my hands and slapped me hard across the face. Seeing this, Abby laughed even harder. Don't worry, with me and Chloe around, your prison life won't be boring. And so, under their control, my life in hell began. And now, they tell me my brother is marrying a murderer like her? I trembled with rage. Knowing that mere words wouldn't convince my brother, and that I was alone and powerless, I needed outside help. So that night, when Ethan sought intimacy, I didn't refuse. I let him pull off my clothes. My scar-covered body was laid bare before Ethan's eyes. Skin that was once fair and smooth was now densely covered with wounds, marks from whipping, cigarette burns, cuts from glass. Each scar represented a painful memory. Most horrifying were the 2 deep brands on my back. The words "cheap slut" burned into my skin like a criminal's mark, making Ethan's breath catch in his throat. The usually proud man's eyes turned red. He reached out a hand cautiously, hesitantly, afraid to touch, as if I were a fragile, priceless treasure. Seeing my empty eyes, his voice trembled. Did they abuse you in prison? I nodded, picked up the phone, and laboriously typed, yes. They whipped me until I was bleeding and raw, dragged me by my hair into the toilet, pushed my head into filthy toilet water until I couldn't breathe, pressed a smoking hot iron onto my back. Seeing my difficulty typing, Ethan's voice shook. Your hand. My expression was calm. They severed the tendons in my hand too. Enough. Ethan couldn't bear to hear any more. He covered his face, devastated. I'm sorry, Lily. But why didn't you ask me for help back then? I wouldn't have ignored you. I managed a smile and reminded him of his own actions. When Chloe cried because she didn't win the award, you demanded I give the design championship to her. You said I had won countless times already, this one didn't matter, but Chloe needed the award for validation. When I refused, you manipulated things behind the scenes, forcefully stealing the championship that rightfully belonged to me. When Chloe fell down the stairs, even though I didn't push her, you treated me like a criminal. You kicked our child out of me. How could you expect me to trust you? Seeing him trapped like a caged animal, his eyes bloodshot, a wave of vengeful satisfaction washed over me. Besides, I did ask you for help. Have you forgotten? The day you visited me in prison, I screamed hysterically. What did you say? You told me not to play tricks, you said I disgusted you. By the time I finished, Ethan was kneeling on the floor, letting out a raw, animalistic cry of grief. I'm sorry, Lily. From now on, I will never let anyone hurt you again. His eyes welled up. Lily, I will help you get revenge. Whatever you want to do, I will support you. Thank you, Ethan. Now, I only have you. I put on a deeply moved expression, but inside, my heart was calm, utterly devoid of ripples. Actually, there is something I need your help with right now. After all, you're the only one I trust now. Seeing Ethan nod without hesitation, my objective was finally achieved. I told him how Abby had framed me, asking him to use his resources to uncover the truth about what happened back then, to clear my name. After all, as a woman just released from prison, with no power or influence, it would be incredibly difficult on my own. After that day, Ethan began a frenzied campaign against those who had harmed me. The same methods the warden used on me were ordered by Ethan to be used on her. Ethan told me he had indulged Chloe for so long because she had supposedly pulled him out of an avalanche once. After I told him that I was the one who actually saved him and produced the keepsake from that time, his feelings for Chloe vanished completely. Chloe was also sent to that hellish prison. Ethan gave instructions for her to be given special treatment. I heard she's already missing an ear, walks with a limp, and her mind is broken. As Ben's wedding day approached, it was time for me to deal with Abby. Ethan was highly efficient. He had already located the driver Abby bribed back then, who was now out of prison. Under Ethan's methods, the driver confessed the truth of what happened that year, and Ethan recorded it and gave the recording to me. On the wedding day, I wore the same style of white dress I had worn when I was first wrongly accused. The moment Ben saw me in that dress, he instantly flew into a rage. You still have the nerve to show your face here? You cheap piece of trash, did you come here to bring me bad luck? Veins bulged on his forehead. Do you even realize you're a sinner? How can you be so unrepentant? And you dare to wear that dress so defiantly? Abby, clinging tightly to his side, looked smug but said superficially, Ben, Lily was young back then, maybe she didn't know better and was just greedy. causing Mom and my sister to have that accident. Now that she's served her time, she should be more mature. Abby's words prompted the surrounding guests to cast looks of scorn or disgust my way. My brother raised his hand, about to slap me. But Ethan, who had his arm around me, blocked it. My brother glared furiously at Ethan. "What kind of spell did this cheap thing cast on you to make you help her like this? She doesn't deserve it." Ethan frowned deeply, stating firmly, "You will regret treating Lily this way." Faced with my own brother's accusations and insults, I was already numb. But I had to clear my name. I couldn't let a crime I didn't commit be pinned on me. So, I took out the recording pen. With the press of a button, the driver's voice echoed throughout the wedding venue. My brother's expression shifted from disgust to shock, then to overwhelming guilt and self-reproach. "Lily," he looked at me, his eyes filled with heartache, and slapped himself hard across the face several times. "It was my fault, Lily. I wronged you. You can punish me however you want. From now on, let me take care of you, okay?" I held up my phone screen, smiling. "Thank you, brother. But today is your wedding day, I should give you a gift." Only then did my brother seem to remember Abby. He turned to her, who was nearly collapsing in fear, and unleashed a torrent of questions. His voice was ice cold. "You bitch. The wedding is cancelled. You can spend the rest of your life in prison with Chloe." Abby, being the instigator who caused me so much suffering, knew how terrifying prison was, knew about the inhuman torture methods. She let out an almost piercing shriek. "No. I don't want to go to prison. Ben, didn't you promise to marry me? I've loved you for so many years. Everything I did, wasn't it all for you?" Ben laughed bitterly. "You killed my mother, killed the woman I loved, and nearly killed my sister. And you call that loving me?" He glanced at Abby with revulsion. "Being loved by you is truly unfortunate. You disgust me." Abby was dragged away by security guards. Ben's words made her alternate between crying and laughing, looking completely deranged. Her years of love for Ben had come to nothing, her dreams shattered, the wedding a farce. Ben forced a smile that looked worse than crying. "Lily, I'm not getting married anymore. How could I marry a vile woman like that, who harmed you and our family? You don't need to give me a gift," he choked up. "I know I've done so many wrong things, you can't forgive me. I only ask for a chance to take care of you for the rest of my life. Whatever you want, I'll do my best to make it happen. Okay? Lily," he pleaded, looking at me with utter humility. But I could never forget the suffering I endured, everything he did to me. Ben and Ethan were both sinners, sinners I could never forgive. How could I possibly give him a chance to make amends? Committing such heinous sins themselves, yet demanding a chance to compensate, just to soothe their own guilt. How naive, how selfish. I smiled again and held up my phone screen. "Brother, this is a gift I absolutely must give you." I beckoned to him, then turned and walked towards the stairs leading up. I knew both Ethan and Ben would follow. Because right now, their guilt and sense of culpability were at their peak. They would agree to anything I said, especially something as simple as this, which wasn't even really a request. We made our way up to the rooftop. Finally, my brother sensed something was wrong. "Lily, what are you doing? Do you hate me so much that you want to punish me like this?" Tears instantly streamed down his face. "It's okay if you punish me, but don't punish yourself like this." Ethan also shouted frantically, "Lily, don't do anything foolish. This isn't revenge, you're just hurting yourself." I found it somewhat laughable. Punish myself? The Lily I was died the moment I was sent to prison. What remained was merely an empty shell. How could this be considered punishment? My continued existence now was just giving Ethan and Ben something to hold on to, a hope. I refused to give them that hope, refused to give them the chance to atone and repent. I smiled and waved at them. Then, under their horrified, widening eyes, I leaped from the tall building. "Lily!" As my consciousness faded, I heard their heart-wrenching cries. My white dress, too, was stained completely red with blood.